Hello fellows, today I've written an article about reviewing our tech stack, especially our front-end tech stack, based on State of JS 2023. I want to give you a little bit more context about the thoughts I had in that moment when I was doing the review. So first of all, we always need to think about the past. So why have we made the decisions? And they should have based on some qualities, right? So I have listed the qualities in the article. One of the major qualities is, for example, substitutability. It is the ecosystem, it is developer availability and those kind of things. They are extremely important. And you need to take a measurement for yourself how those things have changed over time. Reviewing a period of 12 months, probably not much have changed, but over 3 years, there could be already a significant change. For example, if you would have used a technology like Angular, you would have seen a decline in developer availability, right? Then you should ask yourself the question, would I use the tech stack today again, right? This question is quite important. Next question is, what would I change? I take a look at this survey, I take a look at what people say in the market and how it affects those qualities and in the end, our product, because this is what it's all about, right? We want to create a stable product, and this is the reason why I need to take responsibility and ownership of the tech stack and make sure that the decisions I make are long-term and stable. They are robust. And in order to do that, I need to take a look at the surveys. And I saw things, for example, when we take a look at the idea of, hey, is React, for example, the main library, the main paradigm, still the best thing to do? And in my opinion, yes, in short, it's yes. And there is this question about, hey, maybe we're going to Vue, Svelte, or even vanilla.js. I personally don't like the way of vanilla.js very much. And I've written it down in the article, it was chapter 1. I had the idea of, hey, maybe we can switch. Well, that was actually a hypothesis we put up this year. So maybe web components could be a good alternative to React components. And neither the frameworks nor the other qualities I have listed in the article, they are not really convincing. Like, for example, frameworks like Google It, the usage is stagnating, the interest is quite interesting, but there is no ecosystem. So I don't even know if this technology will really fly on some point in time. So it is totally not interesting for me. Not to forget that we basically started in the vanilla world for so many years. And we were pretty happy to get out of there because you don't have a real ecosystem there. It is like you create an app like you think you create an app. And if you hire people, they need to completely learn how you have structured your app. And this is different when you have a paradigm like React and a meta framework like Next.js and using Tailwind CSS. You have a common denominator in many companies because you have just in place this tech stack. And when we take a look at Vue.js and Svelte, for example, as a substitute for React, why? So ecosystem is less strong, interest is probably higher, but still, for me, they seem to follow the idea of React just in a little different way, right? We just stick in that moment with React. React in that moment is, when it comes to qualities, actually a great thing, except one, and this is the problematic part about React, the substitutability. And it's not really about React. This is actually about just the position of the technology. And this is basically let's say, the base library or paradigm. You cannot just exchange it. It is hard to substitute. So when you make a decision on your tech stack, this is the most foundational decision you make. This is the hardest to revert, or sometimes even impossible to revert decision. It's very costly to revert. That in mind, it is very important to think about that as the very foundation of your tech stack. This is how we do that. So we want to keep React. So this is our foundation. The next thing is the meta framework. We're having Next.js right now, and which is actually a concern because Next.js and Vite are interesting competitors for us. And Next.js, when I take a look in the past, was great for us. We built PWAs, we built static web apps, primarily SPAs, and it turned out that Next.js is slowly turning into a purely server-side rendered framework. So this is the new paradigm of Next.js, actually. So for me, that means I need to be careful because we don't follow this paradigm, right? And Vite, for example, which is actually not a meta framework, but a builder, is capable of being flexible enough to do everything we need from PWA, routing, we can implement what we want there, right? And it helps us there. On the other hand, Next.js does bring a lot already, right? A great router, technology. It does bring PWA capabilities and actually all we need. Next.js still fits the qualities, the NFRs we have. Vite seems to be more promising for the future. So if I ask myself, do I need to switch right now from Next.js to Vite right now in order to save the product? No, I don't need to. I can stay with Next.js, it's fine. But I could take a look into or set up a new hypothesis that Vite might be the better choice for the future. With the question of, would I restart today with Next.js? I would say no, I would start with Vite, for example. This is a learning I have just because I read this report. I'm following social media, I'm following blogs, and I'm taking a look at my own work, for example. So this is the reason why I know exactly where I am at with my meta framework right now and where I need to go in the future. So I need to test out and prove the hypothesis right or wrong if Vite is a better successor for Next.js in our specific context. So this is a task we have to do now for the next iteration, which is the next 12 months. There are other things in the article where I was thinking of going from Cypress to Playwright, because Cypress is great, so I don't see a violation of the qualities there at all, but Playwright seems to be way easier to utilize. So maybe there is some form of advantage we have in the future as well. So we have decided to take a look into that as well, maybe use it in parallel to figure out if it might be a better option or not. Treat it as a hypothesis, short-term hypothesis, and if it turns out to be something of value, we make a new decision if we're going with that or maybe substituting or not. And there are other things like we have switched from Recoil to Zustand for state management because Recoil was a great idea, but actually it's still experimental. I think it's dead and it will be dead on some point. And Zustand is very easy to use, it's great, it's already decided, we have already started to substitute this. And again, the substitutability is one of the most important things to have. So even if, for example, quickly back to Next.js, if we would decide to substitute Next.js in the next year, for example, it would take us, I don't know, something between 1 or 2 weeks to migrate the entire application from A to B. This gives me the confidence to stay with what we have right now and just making a hypothesis out of that. So I stay flexible, I know where I am, I have every numbers I need to have, right? And I can proceed safely and make sure we still contribute to the outcome of a product, to our users. This is the most important thing. And this is the way how you should review your tech stacks. You should not review your tech stacks like, hey, I'm loving that technology and I need to find a way to use that technology. This is purely amateur thinking. And this is one of my problems with vanilla, for example. I love vanilla, don't get me wrong. I love the web technologies. But when someone says in that moment, we need to go to web standards because they are standards, no, they are not. Industry standards are the standards. And this is the point. There is a reason why there is an ecosystem. There is a reason why you need to have developer availability and why you need to have some form of performance during development, right? And you cannot just rely on very good developer who mastered vanilla. Right? You need to be able to focus on the average developer, otherwise you won't find people who can work for you. This is terribly dangerous, and everyone who says that is simply not on the layer of strategy and tactical. It is just an operational idea of people who say, hey, vanilla is the best thing to do. Vanilla is actually the most agnostic thing. It has, when it comes to quality of long-term sustainability, it is probably the best, no doubt, and I won't doubt this. React will disappear on some point in time in the future, right? It will disappear, or it will become irrelevant on some point. So maybe not disappearing, but it becoming irrelevant, while web standards will be something then as well. But when I take a look back, we still maintain our old code bases. They are still working, but the problem is, it is very old. It is legacy. So it never evolved, and this is one of those problems. The good thing with modern ecosystems is they have a development life cycle themselves, so they evolve themselves. So the consideration why I want to go from Next.js to Vite, for example, is based on this development cycle. So people want to innovate, they want to evolve. The web standards, they don't really evolve. For example, if you're in a vanilla world and you want to start to adopt web components, they will look today different than they will look in 10 years. So even though they might still be compatible, which is great, but they will be different than how you would start them in 10 years. So don't fool yourself. The world is changing. And it is not like it will be evergreen. So just because something is compatible doesn't mean it's evergreen. I don't want to work in the old code bases anymore, right? They were well written. We even used classes very early on. We used prototype.js to mitigate things. But still, I wouldn't be willing to work on those things anymore. They are just legacy and waiting for the substitution in modern frameworks. And when I think of long-term in React, for example, then I'm thinking of something like up to 5-6 years. And then we redecide, right? We build smaller modules of applications so we can substitute step by step and not need to substitute a big ball of mud, monolithic applications. This is very important. So the strategy of your product is way more complex than just defining your very personal favorite of technology you personally like to use or have used the last 3 years and you feel confident with. You need to become comfortable being uncomfortable while learning new things to become comfortable again with those things. This is the ongoing thing we as software developers need to have in our lives. We need to understand those things. And with software developers, I mean the actual coders and the business people. I hope that helped you a little bit, and I wish you a great day, and I hope we see us then. Bye-bye.